What is good, Deck Gang? This past week was absolutely huge for video games, and I have to say that nobody won like the Steam Deck won. I mean, Microsoft had an admittedly killer show, and one that almost single-handedly curried the favor of everyone that had railed against them just 1 month ago. More on that later. But naturally, all those games are coming to PC, and many of them are going to play well on the Steam Deck. That said, this weekend's series of shows actually ends with a big Steam event, and this week's good news started with a major milestone for the Steam Deck, so let's just jump right into all the Steam Deck news for this past week. For the first time in the history of Steam, the share of Linux users has risen to above 2%. This is a metric that GamingOnLinux.com has been tracking for years, and Liam from Gaming on Linux has been anticipating this particular milestone for some time, even more so since the advent of the Steam Deck. On that note, the Steam Deck deserves a good deal of credit for this watershed moment, with the deck making up about 35% of all Linux users on Steam. What's more is that SteamOS is making up approximately 45% of all Linux users, and that is before Valve has been able to make this operating system available to users outside of the Steam Deck. Of course, tinkerers will do what tinkerers will do, and there are a number of ways to get SteamOS working outside of the Steam Deck, my favorite of which is Bazzite OS. I did install that on the Lenovo Legion Go, and I will also be installing that on the ROG Ally. But imagine if Valve was able to release SteamOS for all so that anyone can use it on their desktop, laptop, or handheld. I think we would continue to see growth just like what we've seen for the Steam Deck, because a lot of that magic, at least in my opinion, has been in the operating system and how convenient it is, at least for gaming specifically. In any case, this is a huge moment and not to be underestimated, because as I am kind of implying, it only signals the beginning. The year of Linux has become quite the meme, but to be clear, no success is overnight, especially one of this nature where Windows has such a stronghold on OS market share, particularly as it pertains to gaming. The Steam Deck feels like it's opened the floodgates, but it sits on the shoulders of giants with efforts like Wine and subsequently Proton. It's taken a community effort for David to even land a blow against Goliath, but the fact that David is in this fight at all is a miracle. For me personally, I've been Linux curious for a long time, but I've never been able to make it my primary driver. I've had to use Linux in work and before that in school, so I certainly can find my way around, but the convenience and familiarity of Windows is something that I haven't been able to shake. Increasingly though, I'm getting closer to the likelihood of Linux becoming my daily driver. The Steam Deck has already made it so Linux is my main gaming machine, and ironically, Microsoft has made it easier for me to move to a base of Linux for my software development projects thanks to the wonderful Windows subsystem for Linux. Furthermore, boneheaded moves like Microsoft Recall and ads in the operating system are making me want to push harder and harder away from Microsoft. All of this means that I'm very close to, at least, shedding my dependency on Windows. Probably the last frontier for me was video editing, but I have to confess that I've been spending the last few months learning DaVinci Resolve, which is incredibly Linux friendly. So here I am, on the precipice of migrating my entire workflow to Linux, so much so that I've done a full install on my laptop, no dual booting, just straight up Linux. It's early yet, but the experience has been pretty good and I can see myself sticking to it. I'll let you know if it does stick and how I enjoy my time, but I'm curious to hear from the Linux faithful. What are your favorite customizations to make, whether it's about the distro or the UI or some CLI tools and terminal configurations? Let me know in the comments, what are the first things you have to do when you first install Linux on a machine? So obviously there were a ton of showcases this weekend with Summer Games Fest, Day of the Devs, the PC Gaming Show, and of course the Xbox Games Showcase, with the Xbox Showcase in particular not only stealing the weekend but being held as one of the best showcases that gaming has seen in years. I think it's relatively safe to say that Microsoft knew they had a banger with this particular show, and they chose to get the bad PR out of the way a few weeks prior with the closures of Tango Gameworks and Arcane Austin. Now, while I was impressed with the show, I haven't forgotten these missteps, and I am going to be paying close attention to how Microsoft proceeds. Nonetheless, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I don't agree with the consensus. This was, in fact, one of the best showcases I've seen in gaming in years, and all they had to do was just show us some good-looking games. I'm excited for a number of them, and Phil Spencer even alluded once again to a future Xbox handheld. What was the highlight of the show for you? For me, it's hard to pick just one. I'd probably have to go with Doom: The Dark Ages, which is a medieval prequel where Doom guy sports some sort of throwable shield chainsaw combo, not to mention a mace on a chain. That's that's going to make for a mean loadout. Let's not forget that Doom Guy also gets in some sort of mecha and fights building-sized demons with that, and then later goes to ride a dragon in a level that looks straight out of Panzer Dragoon. I haven't found a Doom game that I don't love, so I think this one is going to be epic for me. Gears of War E-Day follows the prequel theme, allowing us to see Markham and Dom together once again. Perfect Dark went from in trouble to looking pretty damn good, honestly. It looks like it's going to be an immersive sim and may be the spiritual successor to Deus Ex that many of us have been waiting for. Indiana Jones looks phenomenal and shows that machine games really are Michael Jordan when it comes to making action games about killing Nazis. I was really hoping for a release date on that, but we're not there yet. Stalker 2 is looking great and is releasing in September. Likewise, it briefly seemed like the anticipated fantasy RPG from Obsidian, Avowed, had its release date shown and then quickly removed. The post on Obsidian's website said that the release date was November 12th, but then that date was removed almost as soon as it was posted, so who knows what's going on there. Finally, the biggest surprise for me was Mecha Break, which is a fast-paced and colorful PvP mecha fighter. You can join squads of 3 or 6 and battle it out in a royale with up to 60 players. I feel like I'm on a long sabbatical from online multiplayer games, but this title looks fun as hell, and I'll check the open beta when it launches in August. As for the other showcases, there are an absolute metric ton of indies that were shown at Day of the Devs like Screenbound and Pedal Runner, but the one game I'm most excited about is UFO 50. It finally got a release date of September 18th. UFO 50 is the next game from Derek Yu, creator of Spelunky, and it's a collection of 50 custom single-player and multiplayer games in an 8-bit aesthetic across a variety of genres. It looks incredibly ambitious, and I can't wait to explore it when it finally releases in a few months. Moving on to the next big series, we previously learned that Square Enix is not only bringing the Kingdom Hearts series to Steam, but that they are also reportedly working on compatibility with the Steam Deck, which honestly is incredibly smart of them. I don't think it's a hot take to say that I suspect we're going to see at least one of those titles make it to the top 20 most played Steam Deck games of the month. In any case, it looks like we now have confirmation that Square Enix has been working on providing a better deck and Linux experience for these titles. RPG Site is reporting that Kingdom Hearts 1.5 and 2.5 was being demoed on Steam Decks at the IGN live show floor. Additionally, they clarified saying, for those wondering, cutscenes work. If you weren't aware, in its current state, Kingdom Hearts 1.5 plus 2.5 on the Epic Games Store is somewhat playable on the deck. Notably, there are issues playing cutscenes. Some of those can be fixed via community-made patches, but if Square Enix has taken the time to actually fix this and improve compatibility for the deck, then that's going to be better for everyone involved. By the way, I mentioned the top played Steam Deck games of the month, and we did get an updated list for the month of May, and I gotta say I love this month's list because the new most played Steam Deck game is now Hades 2. Incredibly well deserved and honestly a perfect game for the Steam Deck. This is the most polished early access game I've ever played, and honestly it feels like a full release in its current state. In addition to Hades, Animal Well has cracked the list, coming in at spot number 17. Animal Well has been a wonderful Metroidvania with incredible atmosphere and some surprising knowledge-based unlocks. Once again, this is just another perfect game to play on the deck. Then at number 19 is Ghost of Tsushima's Director's Cut, which honestly speaks volumes. This game was one of the more anticipated PlayStation releases to PC, and while I wouldn't call this game perfect to play on the deck like I did for Hades 2 and Animal Well, it is still incredibly playable, and it's pretty neat to see that other people agree and are running to play this game portably. Likewise, Diablo 4 has re-entered the top 20 list, likely thanks to its big 1.4 update. One game I expect to see it make into the June list for the top 20 games is Selaco. I am about 3 or 4 levels in and this game continues to get better. The weapons are so crunchy, the bad guys are relentless, and the secrets are satisfying to find. I wanted to play this on the big screen, but if you don't know, I play shooters like this one using flick stick and gyro, which is a combination that is so much better on the Steam Deck than any existing control pads because none of those have capacitive sticks like the Steam Deck does. So I did what any enterprising Steam Deck content creator would do, and I used another Steam Deck as a fancy Steam controller too. If you didn't know, you can do this by using a Steam Deck to remote play into another device. Unfortunately, this only worked for me the first time I tried it, and then the Steam Deck would crash anytime I tried to remote play from one Steam Deck to another. This is why Valve desperately needs a Steam controller too with capacitive sticks, because in my opinion, that would be the absolute best way to play first-person shooters using a control pad. Perhaps, however, my mistake was using Steam Remote Play in the first place. It may have been better if I were using Moonlight/Sunshine, which is the open source way to stream games between PCs. I especially say this because Moonlight just got a new release, version 6.0, and it comes with a huge update, HDR support for Steam Deck and other HDR-capable Linux systems. Of course, for the Steam Deck, you'll either need the Steam Deck OLED or you will need to dock your Steam Deck to an HDR-capable display. There were a bunch of other new features like Vulkan video decoding of various codecs using the new Vulkan renderer on Linux and full end-to-end stream encryption when you're streaming from Sunshine v0.22 or later. Let me know in the comments if you use Moonlight and Sunshine to stream your PC games or if you just use Steam Remote Play like I did. But there is another community effort that might be even more interesting than that, and it is native split screen Halo on the PC and the Steam Deck. Shout out to my friend Mosquito for introducing me to this, but it is apparently a tool called Alpha Ring. I'll leave a link in the description, but this tool allows for native split screen play for Halo Master Chief Collection, and some have already tried it out on the Steam Deck. One person says it works swimmingly and even works with modded campaigns. In fact, one of the main contributors to this tool released a video introducing this mod and also said that he's been testing it on the Steam Deck. They gave instructions in their video for how to set it up, so I'll leave a link to that in the description too. Word of warning though is that you should not use this mod for matchmaking as it will be flagged by the anti-cheat. But outside of the matchmaking, it does reportedly work when you play online, even when you're playing with Xbox players. This thing sounds phenomenal. And listen, I spent so many college nights playing split screen Halo with game dev buddies when I should have been studying, so this is incredibly intriguing to me and I cannot wait to give it a try. Last week, I mentioned that MSI has announced their new handheld, the MSI Claw 8 AI Plus. Specifically, I talked about my skepticism around the device because it will once again be using an Intel processor. Well, we have a little more information, and thankfully, it seems like performance is considerably improved for Intel's new generation of chips, the Lunar Lake series. PC World published a video of a 3D Mark benchmark running the next generation Lunar Lake and also running on the current generation Meteor Lake, and the results are astounding, with Lunar Lake being much more efficient. The Fox broke down the secret sauce behind this, so I'm going to leave a link to his video in the description, but nonetheless, this is something to be excited about. According to the Fox, Lunar Lake even compared favorably in this test to AMD's current generation. But of course, until we know more about AMD's Strix Point, we won't know how it stacks up to AMD's next gen or how it will fare outside of synthetic benchmarks and inside of real games. The point is, we all win when there's good competition, and I am extremely happy to see Intel make strides in this arena. So I've shared a ton of great news, and before I hit you with some even more good news, I do have to share one disappointing story. It has recently come to light that GOG.com will be removing any cloud saves that exceed the default allocation limit of 200 megabytes per game. GOG, of course, is another digital store where you can buy PC games. In any case, files that exceed the limit will be deleted after August 31st, so in just a couple of months. They said that they have to do this because as the size and number of games increase, so does the demand for cloud storage. They continued, these limits ensure that all players have access to sufficient and manageable space for their game progress and that we keep the associated costs under control. By optimizing our storage allocation, we aim to continue providing a reliable and user-friendly platform for everyone. Now, to be honest, I don't think I have any GOG cloud saves, but I checked my Steam cloud saves and it looks like one of the biggest games I have is ironically The Witcher 2. If you're unaware, both GOG and the developers of the Witcher series are wholly owned subsidiaries of CD Projekt, and I do have to imagine that their games like The Witcher and Cyberpunk 2077 are going to be some of the biggest caches of file saves that they're going to have to clean up. As mentioned, this is disappointing, but given the way that they're handling this, it doesn't feel like a rug pull, and it feels like a genuine area where they just have to save costs, so I do appreciate how they're going about this. All right, friends, it is that time again. Steam Next Fest is here. This is the quarterly event where Valve opens up the floodgates and a ton of demos become available for upcoming indie games. So with that, I do have a few rapid-fire demo recommendations. Are you ready? All right, let's do this. Tactical Breach Wizards is a tactics game from the developer of Gunpoint and Heat Signature. You can combine spells in unique ways and are free to experiment thanks to handy rewind features. Grapple Dog's Cosmic Canines is a sequel to a channel favorite, Grapple Dog, which I affectionately refer to as Bionic Command Dog. Anyway, this sequel adds a new gun-toting canine to play as, but maintains a lot of the same cute grapple-based platforming that is both approachable and challenging. Skim is a clever monochrome puzzle game where you navigate the world through shadows. Conscript is a dreadful and terrifying survival horror where you play as a lone soldier fighting for their life in the trenches of the First World War. Dungeons of Hinterberg is a third-person action adventure, kind of in the vein of 3D Zeldas, but with badass combat and a slick style. Dungeons and Degenerates could be the next roguelike deck builder phenomenon. It's blackjack coded, but each suit has a unique playstyle and you're looking to best your opponents. I've yet to get into a survival crafting game, but I have to say, Aloft looks great. You can soar in the skies similar to Tears of the Kingdom, but it's all about protecting and restoring the ecosystem around you. There's a multiplayer demo available now. Yars Rising is developed by the excellent WayForward, who I don't know when's the last time they had a dud with games like River City Girls, Shantae, and Contra Operation Galuga, and Yars Rising is no different. It starts with an intriguing comic panel style intro, but quickly drops you into a familiar Metroidvania format with a fun hacking minigame. Kill Knight is a super fast-paced, visceral, bullet-hell top-down shooter that accordingly rewards aggression and precision. I'm happy to see that there are going to be global leaderboards and an arsenal of challenges. Check the demo now because this game looks like it's going to be insane. Finally, Lock Digital is the latest puzzle game from masters of the craft, Draknek and Friends. Apparently, this is based on the critically acclaimed puzzle book, Lock. And I'm going to have to look into that book after playing this game because I am loving the intuitive but challenging puzzles in this demo. All right, that is 10 demos to start you off on this June 2024 edition of Steam Next Fest. Check them out. Let me know what you think and recommend your own demos in the comments. I hope you're all having a wonderful week. Deck Gang out. Goodbye.